In a distant place, into space somewhere, she felt alone, left by herself to recount all that happened to her species. The sky still remained blue, as she remembered, but the air was so much different now. She wondered how she was the only one allowed to survive, when all the others were not so fortunate. How long could she hope to remain this way? Was her time about to be shortened too? Or would she be allowed to stay alone with her thoughts and her memories? Alone is exactly what she was now, and maybe forever. She thought back to that fateful day almost 10 years ago now. It started out normal, but whatever happened on that day was anything but normal. She remembered getting dressed that morning and getting ready for her job at the law firm. She had everything down to a science. Each thing done a certain way and at a certain time. She remembers it was a cool, brisk morning, so she decided to grab a jacket and hang it on the back of her front door. She didn't put it on, however, but she wanted to have it just in case she needed it. As she made her way towards her car, she saw her next-door neighbor, Mrs. Peterson, walking over to her family van, along with her two adorable children, Michael and Lisa. She began to stop herself in mid-thought, wondering what happened to Michael and Lisa. Was their mother able to comfort them in their last moments on earth? Or did they all suffer? She didn't want to think about the latter. Yes, they must have been with each other and spent their final seconds happy and without any pain. That's the way she'll choose to remember it. And how it must have happened. No. How it did happen. And that's exactly what happened to everyone else on that fateful day. No pain, no tears, no cries, just gone in an instant. Thinking back some more, the air did feel a little stranger that fateful day, come to think of it. A lot of the people around her seemed to be sneezing and coughing more than usual. At first, she figured it was allergies, but then she thought, how could all these people be allergic to the same thing on that same morning? She, however, was feeling just fine. When she got to work, she parked in her same spot that she had for the last 8 years, right next to Dave, her assistant's car. He was always the first one to arrive to work and the last one to leave the building, except for her. Dave will be a great manager one day. Could have been a great manager one day, she thought to herself sadly. He was expecting his first child with his lovely wife, Christina. The two of them were so excited to be parents. In fact, Dave told the staff that Christina and him had decided to name their daughter after her mom, to keep her memory alive. Christina's mom passed away a year before they got married. He told the staff how they went out and bought all the baby stuff already. In fact, Christina's due date was a week after that fateful day. She remembered her day at work. It was a normal day, filled with telephone and face-to-face conversations with their clients, as well as the meetings with the rest of the staff. There was even a morning meeting with the owners and an afternoon one to wrap up any loose ends with the cases. She loved her job so much and everyone that was involved with it. It was almost lunchtime on that fateful day, and everyone was going to lunch at the same time so they all could come back together. She had a few things to finish up first for her client, Mrs. Parker's case, so she told everyone to go on without her, and she'd meet them over at Madame Wang's restaurant. They left taking the elevators as she heard the doors open and close from her office. After a few minutes, her work was done, and she could now join everybody down at Madame Wang's. She decided, however, to take the stairs instead of the elevators that day. Not many people take the stairs anymore, if anyone, especially since their office was on the 12th floor. She decided to take the stairs for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons was that she was still uncertain over some cases, and the stairs would give her that time to think about them. Also, she really needed that exercise she's been meaning to get. Not that she was out of shape, but she was eating a little too much rice with her sweet and sour chicken lately. As she opened the door to the stairwell, she noticed it looked awful dingy and somewhat dirty. She guessed by the look it's been a long time since anyone came down these stairs or even attempted to clean them up. In fact, she was shocked that some of the lights still worked and knew she would never attempt those stairs at night. The fire extinguishers, well, they were all out of date and they seemed empty. That was something that she would definitely bring up in the afternoon meeting that day. Halfway down the stairs, she heard a loud boom. The building shook, and the lights that remained on flickered on and off, but only for a second. She hoped there wasn't a fire, because those extinguishers would do her no good at all, unless she was to use them to smash out a window. However, there are no windows in here anyway. Holding on to the dirty rail, she waited for a second boom to come just in case. But nothing. Nothing. Not even an alarm going off. And that seemed odd to her. Nothing outside or even in the building itself. As she made her way down to the ground floor, she held on to the dirty railings tightly all the way down. She didn't want to fall, especially since nobody knew that she took those stairs. And from the overall look of things in here, nobody was going to attempt to come in and find her anyway. As she began to open the street-level door, she decided to peek out first to see if the coast was clear. Yes, the coast was clear, but too clear. As she began to walk around outside, she noticed nobody was around. The cars were, the cabs were, and so were the bicycles. But no people. No animals, come to think of it. At first she thought she was dreaming, so she began to rub her eyes. When that didn't work, she slapped herself hard. That hurt, but it didn't change the fact that she was still alone. All alone. She quickly grabbed her cell phone out of her pocket, but nothing. No power? How could that be when she knew she had just fully charged it before she came down that stairwell? She quickly walked around to Madame Wong's. Maybe the gang was there waiting for her. Maybe this was another one of Ronald's pranks that he loved to pull on his co-workers. If it was, she was going to give him a high five for pulling out all the stops on this one. As she arrived at Madame Wong's, nobody was there waiting. Not even Ronald gloating or saying, "I got you." Just the same emptiness that she saw when she first came out of that stairwell. The electrical equipment had stopped working, and so was anything else electrical around her. That's probably the same reason why her phone was dead. Whatever did that to her phone affected the whole area, the whole town, maybe the whole world. She knew she was in trouble, but she was in it alone. After wandering around town for a few hours, she became tired and thirsty, so she just stopped by the old fountain in the center of town. She sat down, and she couldn't wait to splash her face with cold water and get a drink. It wasn't the cleanest fountain, but it was water. As she began to bend down to cup the water in her hands, the water began to rise straight up towards the sky, and then it just disappeared, just like everyone else. She remembered seeing a bright beam come down from where the water had disappeared into. The beam seemed to stop right next to where she was sitting. The beam looked like the elevator from her building, except where the floor numbers would be, there was a sign that read, "Step in and learn." Should she step in or not? And does she actually have a choice at this point? So she decided to step in. After all, what else could happen? Once she stepped in, she passed right out. Waking up, she didn't recall anything about the beam except stepping into it. She had no idea how long she was in it, and if she was awake or asleep during the whole ordeal. All she knew at this point was that she was awake now, and she wanted answers. That was almost 10 years ago, and the answers she wanted and asked for on that fateful day have yet to be found by her or explained by anyone. She has no idea why on that fateful day she was the only one left and the only one spared, while all the others disappeared into somewhere. Or maybe they were the lucky ones and she was the one being singled out. But for what? And for who? All she continues to do now is think back to that fateful day. And that stairway, the one that she chose to take instead of the elevators, she remembered before she first stepped in the doorway, she saw a sign over top of it, and it was faded. And the sign read, "Enter at your own risk." You've just heard Alone, Outlast, a short story written by John J. Ruppert, July 5th, 2014. It was recorded, spoken, and effects added by me, John J. Ruppert, July 10th, 2019. Till we meet again, be safe, be creative, and think about those choices you make in life.